Well, welcome to the New Media Show again. This is episode 657. My name is Rob Greenlee, and tonight we're going to be diving into one of the biggest shifts happening right now across podcasting, creator media, and platform distribution, and even some talk about, the varying aspects of formats too. Apple Podcasts is leaning harder into video through HLS streaming delivery, if you're following the updates in the news in the industry. But at the same time, AI is rapidly pushing the rise of entirely synthetic creators and authentically cloned humans as AI replicas, and some are fully invented into, reproducing this digital human type of experience. So we're in this kind of flux time in podcasting. This is really, I think that the big thing is this is no longer just a podcasting story necessarily. I think we're shifting into another type of a medium now that's much bigger around media transformation. And I've got Justin Jackson with me. You can see him to the side of me here. He's the co-founder and CEO of Transistor. He's here with me. Justin, welcome to the New Media Show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I think this is my first time on the show.
I think it is, yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think you had a chance to come on before with Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those long-running shows that I can remember listening to when I was, making podcasts in 2012. There's like all of these OGs that I was looking up to, and you and Todd and, the folks over at Libsyn and all these folks I would tune in, and there was quite a few of these kind of podcast specific shows, like people podcasting about the medium. And I was a big fan. So longtime fan, glad to finally be here.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you on here too. I know we talked many times over the years, especially at the Podcasting 2.0 project meetings and then the subsequent podcast standards project, which I hope you can talk about a little bit here, and
absolutely,
and share what's going on there, because I'm sure a lot of people still quite don't know what that is, right? They see the word standards and they probably go, "What?" But it's also, it's more of a recommendation type of a thing to the industry about where the industry more broadly thinks the priority should be. So
that's right. The podcasting has a coordination problem, because whenever you have an industry that's at least partly based on an open standard, you have to have some sort of coordination between all the companies to figure out what you're going to do. So certainly open standards like email had this. So there's a email working group that Microsoft and Yahoo and Google for Gmail and MailChimp and ConvertKit and all these email service providers, they all meet regularly and they say, all right, what are we going to accept into the email standard and what are we going to not accept? And there's a similar group for web standards. So the reason that you can load a web page in Firefox and Safari and Chrome and Opera, and it looks basically the same in every browser, is because of a group that petitioned Microsoft back in the day, back during Internet Explorer 6. And they got web standards approved. So what we're trying to do with the Podcast Standards Project is you've got the wild cowboys of Podcasting 2.0 out riding ahead, and they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff and making all sorts of amazing stuff. I'm a big fan of what they're doing. Transistor supported their work. And but we need a way of saying, hey, what's going to be standard? Like, what can we as podcast hosting providers and also as listening apps, what can we say, okay, we're going to support these features? And a good example of that was the podcast transcript tag when it first came out. That was a coordinated effort amongst Podcast Standards Project members. And eventually Apple supported it, which was a big win. And then there's other really cool features that I think got way more distribution because it was a coordinated effort. So Kevin Finn over at Buzzsprout suggested the pod roll tag, which is a way of recommending other shows that you like as a creator. So shows you might also like. And many of us have implemented that. And then Pocket Casts actually put it into their app. So now creator recommendations are powered by the pod roll tag. So that's the challenge. It works. That kind of work is going to be slower than most people would like. That coordination problem it just takes time. And also, everybody that's a member is running their own companies and trying to build their own things. But overall, I'm really pleased. I think every year we make more progress. There's more people that join. This last kind of excitement around HLS video, even before Apple had announced it.
That's going to spark a lot of interest in it.
I started talking about it, and then we did a presentation at Podcast Movement. You couldn't even get in the room. There were so many people. That's when we started seeing other big players wanting to join Podcast Standards projects. So the bigger companies that had been kind of on the sides at least joined in the Slack and started talking to us about, what they were thinking of doing with video and HLS video. So, I think it's an exciting time right now. I think we're going to get into, especially what does this Apple Podcasts announcement mean for the open standard of RSS and open podcasting. I will say off the top, I am still very bullish on open podcasting and RSS-based podcasting. I think actually this move by Apple to introduce HLS video in the app, even though you need to have right now a private API key to do that, I think this is going to result in more HLS video streams in the alternate enclosure tag.
Yeah, I do too.
Than ever before, because now every major podcast hosting company is working on this.
Right. And it's going to be easier for them to add it as a capability, but we still have to get apps that will display it, right?
That's right. But this is going to create a cascading effect. So you're going to have all of these creators, here's the key part. And this is a place where I think Podcasting 2.0 has sometimes gotten off track, and the Podcast Standards Project has gotten off track. It has to be creator driven. And that means it actually ultimately has to be consumer driven. I wrote a blog post on the Podcast Standards Project, on the Podcast Standards blog called Playing the Game on the Field. And it's the recognition that all of us, especially anyone watching this show, and, we're podcast nerds. We have our own strongly held beliefs about what a podcast should be.
Yeah.
Ultimately, none of that matters unless what really matters is what consumers think.
Yeah.
What do they think a podcast is? Yeah. And let me tell you, when I get in an Uber or a taxi and I say, hey, are you into podcasts? They'll go, oh yeah, I listen to podcasts all the time on YouTube, or I watch podcasts all the time on Instagram Reels.
Yeah, it's what they think is really what matters. Right.
That's right. And my wife was even saying the other day, she was getting her nails done, and the nails lady was like, so what does your husband do? And she's like, oh, he's in podcasting. And she's like, oh, but aren't podcasts just posted on YouTube? Like, isn't that what a podcast is? And in her mind, a podcast has this aesthetic quality, which is two people on video, like you and I are, speaking into microphones. That's a podcast to her. And so we could argue.
Well, in a lot of ways it is.
But we could, the industry could argue about what's a podcast and this is what it is. And ultimately, it's the consumer that decides. Yeah. And then that cascades to the creator.
Yeah.
What's so great about this move with Apple is we're seeing a lot of creators that are motivated right now to publish their HLS video streams on Apple Podcasts. Transistor's like working as hard as we can to get this thing built, right? So we've manually added some shows to Apple Podcasts, but we're working our butts off to try to get this thing built. But man, there's so much interest in this. People are shopping around trying to find hosting providers that offer this. And that means once they start uploading video to Transistor or wherever else, and we start turning those, encoding those into HLS video streams, for us to add that into the alternate enclosure tag in the RSS feed and then have those streams go out to True Fans and Fountain. Pocket Cast is going to add it. iHeart has added it. This is happening. And the move that Apple made really kind of created this wave of interest that we're seeing. So yeah, I'm excited. I think we're going to see way more open, standard, open podcasting 2.0 video because of the Apple move.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. Is it going to make a difference with a platform like Spotify? That's the other question, right? It's not a huge question, but it's a significant one, because I don't even know that Spotify is going to even participate in the Apple HLS program, because they haven't been announced as being a part of it yet. So,
I mean, I think what you will see is, for example, I think once more podcast hosting providers start doing this, I don't know if I can share my screen here. I might not be able to. Oh yeah, I can hear. So this is what the distribution screen looks like now inside of Transistor, right? So we've got a video hosting and distribution coming soon.
Yeah.
Once we have the video, for us to pass it along to YouTube and pass it along to Spotify, if the creator wants to, is, that's all doable. And so I think...
Yeah, this is great, Justin. I mean, YouTube, you got them all right there.
Yeah, and RSS, right? So ironically, I think this Apple move is actually going to benefit Spotify in a way, because I think more people are going to be adding video to Spotify via their API as opposed to manually.
Yeah.
I think more people are going to be uploading podcasts to YouTube. And we'll have to see how many creators end up actually uploading video to Apple, because it is going to be more expensive because we've got to host it and all this stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a big win for anyone that was into video, right? There's a lot of audio purists that maybe aren't as excited, but if you were into being an independent broadcaster, like if your dream was, I don't want to just have a radio studio in my house, but I want to have a TV studio where I can broadcast my own TV show anywhere in the world. If you're that kind of person, this next phase of podcasting is going to be really exciting.
So for those that are listening here, let me just explain what's on the screen here. So Justin brought up a screen of his publishing tool for Transistor, and it lists as destinations here, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and RSS feed. So, I think the question is right now, Spotify is going to be just audio, and Apple Podcasts is currently audio and video, but you didn't support MP4s to Apple Podcasts prior to this, did you?
No, just because it had been deprecated so much in their UI.
Yeah. Well, that's another big thing that's changing too, is that it's going back to the way it used to be a long time ago. And you know that because I've seen you post pretty extensively on this topic. And I used to work at running the Zune podcasting platform, and we had a lot of video podcasts back when I was working there.
Yeah, this whole conversation has actually been good for me to go back into the history and to remember what was happening around 2005. I think people, first of all, there's a lot more young people in podcasting now. Like,
it's totally understandable what's happened here. Yeah.
But I'd forgotten. Yeah. So let me take you back, dear listener, to early 2000s. Right. Really, broadband and like high-speed internet access for homes has just started to come online, right? Like it's just starting to get penetration in the market. Like there's more and more homes that have high-speed internet.
Not in 2005, but beyond that, yeah.
Beyond that, yes.
Right, yeah.
And so I graduated college probably around 2002. And I remember this is when I started getting interested in the cut the cord movement, where people were like, I'm getting rid of my traditional cable.
TV. Right.
Gonna cut the cable, cut the cord.
Yep.
And there was this kind of suite of things that came out at the time that allowed people to watch TV over the internet.
Right.
And some of it was video on demand, but some of it was you download it to iTunes and then you would sync it to your video iPod.
Correct.
And watch there. And, I was really into Leo Laporte. I was into Dignation. I was into Techzilla. I was into all of these. You could do it on
your PC too, or your Mac too.
That's right. You could watch it on your Mac as well.
Right.
I even remember we had one of our Macs set up as kind of a little TV, when my wife and I were younger, and they had a little remote that you could use and bring up this application called Front Row. And one of the options in Front Row in 2005 was you could go to the video option, and then it was like movies, TV shows, music videos, video trailers, video podcasts.
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about connected TV right now, like YouTube invented it.
Yeah.
No. I mean, there was so many other pioneers that came before them. Apple being one of them, Zune, Roku. Like these
Windows Media Center.
Windows Media Center. This Bill Gates used to be obsessed about having.
Yeah. Actually, I got the Zune video podcast onto Windows Media Center back when I was working there. So
if you go back into the marketing back then, there's all this marketing from Microsoft about having the living room PC, like your
television set-top box. Yeah.
That's right. So it's been interesting to go back, and there's a old website called newtv.com. I don't know if you remember that. It was on GigaOM.
Web TV. I remember Web TV.
There was all sorts of forums and blogs around this topic of, and for creators at the time, there was this real excitement, and it really was happening in parallel with audio podcasting. So audio podcasts were its own thing for sure.
Oh yeah.
But there's all of this excitement for independent broadcasters about like, wow, we get to do our own radio shows and we get to do our own TV shows. And there was a lot of creators that were really excited about this. This is also when we start to see a lot more live shows, both audio and video. All of this was happening back in the early 2000s. And now it's so funny that, Apple kind of, there's multiple reasons. You and I were talking about this, multiple reasons why Apple deprecated video in Apple Podcasts and iTunes.
Yeah.
Part of it was cost. Like if you talk to some of those original podcasters, like Kevin Smith and the Smodcast and all, they were like their hosting bills and bandwidth bills were
it was kind of high,
insane. And then YouTube came out with free video hosting.
Yeah,
and a lot of video creators started moving their video podcasts over to YouTube.
Right.
And then Apple, I think, was like, do we want to be in this game? Let's just focus. And then Serial came out, and that became kind of the definition of the genre for a while, like these highly produced audio shows.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cascade of other events that led up to Serial, because you had an era where you had a lot of the very popular comedians start audio podcasts, and they were becoming very, very popular.
Ricky Gervais.
Right. And that's the time frame that the 2009 time frame is when things really shifted with Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Mark Maron those three guys started in the 2009, 2010 time frame.
Yeah.
And that was when, and you combine that with, that was about the same time frame that iHeartRadio entered podcasting too, is about 2010. And so you started to see this movement on commercial and public radio was starting to explode in podcasting. And so it was really the convergence of all of these audio-centric platforms really heavily investing in podcasting. And that really transformed it. And then the challenge on the video side was, prior to all this, all the major media companies in the whole country, I mean, every media brand that you can think of, ABC, NBC, CBS, HBO, Showtime, they were all doing full episode TV level shows in their RSS feeds as
Yes.
MP4 files. Because I worked with them all when I was working at Zune, because I actually tried to convince most of them in about the 2009 to 10 timeframe to not bail on video podcasts, because they were having a hard time figuring out how to monetize. And so I was going around the country meeting with these media companies, whether it be Nat Geo or Comedy Central, Viacom, all those folks, trying to convince them to keep it going. And you also had on top of that this layer of an economic collapse that was happening in 2008 through 2009, which was putting a lot of financial pressure on these media companies, because the advertising market was in decline, and they were moving towards trying to cut staff, cut budget, all these kinds of things. So you had a convergence of an economic decline, the inability, or I kind of, when I talked to a lot of these media companies, I told them, oh, sorry, I needed to switch back to both of us. But yeah, so I talked with all these media companies in this context of, well, there is a way that you can monetize this, and that would be by doing host reads, right? Bake it into the content and you're good to go. And they just couldn't get their heads around this. And be able to deploy it inside of their organizations. That was just something that they just didn't. I mean, you would think that they would do it, but they just didn't have the automation or the infrastructure to be able to do it efficiently, I guess. And so most of them just decided that it was better to just cut the budget and move on from it. A good example is MSNBC. I talked to them because back when I was working with them, MSNBC was part of Microsoft. I don't know if a lot of people knew that at the time, but those folks over there were colleagues of mine when I was working at Microsoft. So I was in a very close kind of contact with them, and they were very close to just cutting all of their video podcasts. And then they put it out there that they were going to do this prior to doing it, and the community just had a huge backlash. And it was screaming at me, "You're not taking, my Rachel Maddow away from me." and that was really what turned it around, because back then she was very popular. And so they kept it going for a while, and then they cut it back to like maybe half of her episode is what they wound up doing in the end. But
I mean, what's so funny now is that, because I remember watching CBC, a lot of CBC programming here in Canada was available both on video in a video RSS feed and audio RSS feed. And as like one of these like cut the cord, no cable enthusiasts, I was like, we're just gonna watch all of our TV on this. And one of the ways you could get free TV was to download the episodes as video podcasts. So I was downloading lots of CBC programming. Well, fast forward now to 20 years later, and now I watch the CBC News on YouTube. They go live on YouTube, and I watch on YouTube. I watch a lot of kind of CBC programs as either YouTube clips or YouTube shows, a lot of sports on YouTube. So YouTube just had, kudos to Google for investing all of that money and losing a lot of money over the years. But they built the entertainment platform of the century. And now they are eating everybody's lunch. In the podcast industry, we're kind of like worried about YouTube and the effect they're going to have on the industry. Listen, Netflix is worried about YouTube.
Well, Netflix is half the size of YouTube. So, and that's actually pretty significant that they're at least that big, right? So,
this is the thing that's so interesting about how consumer behavior evolves and shifts, is if you had told me 20 years ago that most people would be coming home from work and instead of watching Friends or instead of watching Seinfeld, they'd be turning on YouTube and just watching hours and hours of programming on YouTube, you would have been like, no way. You're
laughed
crazy.
Out of the room, actually.
Like that's not happening.
Right.
But that is what's happening.
That's what I do. I don't have cable television, and I spend a lot of my time watching content on YouTube and a few other apps that are out there too, and Netflix is one of them as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just completely cut the cable, and increasingly more of these cable companies have been supporting, because you still have to get internet access, right? So as long as you get internet access from one of the cable providers, they give you some access to be able to stream, TV channels to some degree. It's not the same content, but it's at least some of those content pieces. And then you can get a Roku, but it has all that stuff built into it. It's almost like an iPhone for your television. It's kind of what I like to call it, or an iPad for your TV. It's the experience that it is.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. It takes care of my interests. So why would I go back to cable television paying $300 a month for something that I only watch probably 5 or 6 channels on?
Yeah. I mean, the joke now is that, so now we're paying like for good, I don't know what it is in Canada.
It's expensive for internet access now. Yeah.
Like, I think my office internet bill is at least $170 Canadian. And then, then you have subscription to Netflix. I have a subscription to YouTube Premium because I don't want to watch the ads.
Yeah.
And you just keep adding on. It's like, well, I have Prime, but now I have to watch ads with Prime.
Yeah.
And part of the attraction back in those days with video podcasts was, and even actually the iTunes store, because you used to be able to buy TV shows on demand. You still can, but very much less popular now.
Yeah.
But the attraction was, we can watch these TV shows ad free. So if I download it as a video podcast, there's no ads. It was like ad free content. And then if I bought the TV show, there was no ads. It was ad-free content. And that was a big motivator for a lot of people to get off, traditional cable TV. But here we are in 2026. And now it's like people are watching tons of ads on YouTube, tons of ads on Prime Video. Netflix has ads now. So we're back to paying for cable bundles and watching ads. But the thing that's really changed is choice. So now you have video on demand choice. You have so much content to watch. And, I think that's another thing that attracted me to podcasting was, I really got into this idea of self-funded, bootstrapped technology startups. But if you think about it, like that was never going to be on traditional TV or traditional radio, right? Like that didn't happen. Or even like those of us that were nerds and were really in technology, there wasn't a lot of like mainstream television that was good, or mainstream radio that was good for tech nerds. But in podcasting, you could have these niche interests and you could find hours and hours of content.
You could. Yeah, even years and years ago, on Revision 3, and you had Quit, with Leo Laporte, and
still going. They're struggling a little bit more, but still going.
Well, I think Leo's kind of getting toward the end of his career to some degree, so they're kind of winding it down to some degree. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time, and I wanted to raise this other question too, because a lot of the purpose of this show is to say, well, okay, let's understand where we are in the medium right now, but what's it going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now? And this whole HLS streaming things really kind of shakes the box of rocks on this whole thing, which means that the items in the box are going to settle in different places and in different opportunities. So I wonder, when Apple does this, and this was part of the topic I had on last week's episode, is Apple going to be able to even move the needle on interest around this? And it's hard to think that they won't to some degree, but what is the buy-in? And I wanted to get your idea on this. What's the buy-in from the big media companies on this? Because we may go back, especially if Apple adds a layer of maybe subscription. So let's say they have a app or something like that that is a paid subscription. They could layer in ability to access some of that content in the podcast ecosystem with a login subscription. There was a lot of talk in the early years, and the Zune supported this too, where I was working with like Fox News and others to develop this concept of an open premium RSS feed.
Mm-hmm.
which means that you could get access to all the episodes, but to actually watch an episode, you had to log in.
Mm.
And then once you logged in once, it gave you access to all the episodes.
Yeah.
So it gave you the ability to promote it. And I just wonder if there's going to be some mashing together to take us back to more like what we had in the earlier years with this access to full episodes of TV shows in this platform.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. In terms of Apple Podcasts, they already have premium subscriptions baked into Apple Podcasts, right?
The tech's there.
So the tech is there already. Like, we only have a few creators on Transistor that are on Apple Video HLS streaming, and already their premium members are saying, how do we get premium episodes as video, which isn't supported yet? So I think the interest from creators is there, and the interest from consumers is there. Like, let's get, give me premium access to premium video content on my favorite podcast. And Apple has more credit cards on file than maybe any company in the world, which is why, Apple Podcast subscriptions was such a compelling offer. What's even more interesting about Apple right now is, and it's not on Apple TV yet, but Apple TV is a universal platform agnostic distribution channel, right? It's on Samsung TVs, it's on Roku. You can get it as an app everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Apple's
you can buy it its own device too and plug it into your TV.
Right? That's right. So, and they've got their own Apple TV box. We still use that at home.
Yep.
And so, as a distribution platform, the problem with Apple Podcasts has always been it's always stuck on the iPhone. So people on Android devices, et cetera, can't really use it.
Yeah.
And I've always said to Apple, I'm like, I don't know why you don't make an Android native.
We've been telling that to Apple for like 12 years now. So
especially with premium subscriptions, because then the creators can just sell premium subscriptions to more people.
Yeah.
They get 70%, Apple gets 30%. It just seems like a win-win. Anyway, but the agnostic app that Apple does have is Apple TV. And a lot of people use it because they've been producing excellent TV content, Severance and Pluribus and all these shows that have been winning all these awards. So I have to imagine that they are already thinking and have been thinking about video podcasts as a part of Apple TV, and specifically as a part of the Apple TV app. And again, to me, why have premium subscriptions on Apple Podcasts if you're not going to bring it to the Apple TV?
Well, they've always had a podcast app on Apple TV.
It's there right now. I actually have, but I haven't, because you could watch traditional MP4 episodes on Apple TV in the podcast app, but I don't think it works with these new HLS streams yet. And they haven't added the ability to take advantage of these HLS streams and they're probably going to wait until it's fully deployed on Apple Podcasts before they roll it out. Yeah. That's right. So they're gonna figure it out. But I think that's where, if I was Apple, I imagine that's what I'd be thinking is like, we want to partner with more creators. We want to get this premium subscriptions going for video podcasts, and we want to use the Apple TV box, but also the Apple TV apps that are everywhere as the distribution platform. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll see if they can move the needle. Here's the thing about consumer demand and markets in general. Small companies like Transistor and small little individuals like you and I, we have very little influence over how consumers behave. It's like a wave in the ocean. We don't create the waves, we just ride them. No. However, big mega corporations like Microsoft, you'll know this from working with them, and Apple, and Netflix, and Amazon, they can affect consumer demand, but even they can't succeed all the time. So Apple, maybe an example is the Newton, like a little Palm Pilot-like device, massive failure, didn't work out. Yeah. But you have the iPhone. I mean, what has affected consumer culture and consumer demand more than the iPhone. Probably.
Well, and had a significant inflection moment with podcasting too.
That's right. So big companies like Apple can affect consumer demand.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if they could do it with video podcasts. There's a lot going against them because, I mean, for the listener, go out and talk to 5 of your friends and ask them how they're watching TV.
Yeah.
Or even just what media do they consume every day. And my guess is 90% of the answers are going to be YouTube and Instagram. That is so much of our culture is consuming content on YouTube. People are going home from a hard day's work and they're like, do I want to get into another big series on Paramount? Or do I just want to open up YouTube and find my favorite creators and watch 15-minute videos for 3 hours,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's oftentimes in the technology market, there's really only one winner in a particular, segment of consumer demand. And it's not like it used to be where you had, 3 or 4 that were fairly close and competitive with each other, like it happened in the music industry. And I just think this YouTube phenomenon is almost like a winner take all. And it's already shaping up to be like that, just like, Android turned out to be the winner take all of mobile smartphones.
That's right.
So you see this momentum behind it. And that's what raised this question in last week's episode for us to, just because Apple did this, and Apple is a huge influence in the podcasting space. There's a question, if there was anybody that was able to move the needle on this, it would be Apple. But the question is, are they going to invest in it to do that? Because part of the thing that they're missing right now is demographics.
Yes.
And Apple tends to be a older user base. And
not enough people are talking about this, by the way.
I know. Well, this is the second episode that I'm talking about it. So it's the younger generation has kind of already picked the winners here. And I think that's the challenge that Apple has is Apple, Apple has a lot of younger iPhone users, but the problem is that their phones are more expensive than Android, Samsung phones and stuff like that. So the entry point is a little bit more challenging for them. And let's say Android is stronger with YouTube than it is with Apple, right? That's always been the case. So I think in a lot of ways, if Apple wants to compete with video now, I think they're going to have to build an experience in Android. And if they don't, then I think they're going to be relegated to, second or third place here.
Yeah. There's a few. Okay. So let's talk about the future a bit more.
Yeah.
So the demographic thing is real. And I think this is where the podcast industry kind of has blinders on their eyes because so many of us got introduced to podcasting through iTunes and the iPod. And in our mind, Apple is king. The other thing that blinds us in the podcast industry is that the Apple Podcast listener is still incredibly valuable. It's one of the most valuable audiences on the planet right now because these are older, they tend to be Gen X folks. They're established in their careers. They've made all their money. They're very difficult to reach because they don't like watching advertisements. And so how are you going to reach them? You reach them through podcasts, and it's a very lucrative audience to target. And so all of the ad networks and everyone else, they love Apple Podcasts because that market is worth something. They tend to be higher income earners, all of these things. So that's a strength and a weakness, right? So the strength is that this is a very lucrative audience, and there's always going to be people that want to reach those folks, creators, advertisers, etc. So that's one thing. I think they need to leverage that strength and continue to, if I was a podcaster and most of my audience was Apple Podcasts, like that was my number 1 or 2 platform, I would be really excited about video because this is a new way to reach one of the hardest audiences to reach. this high income earning Gen X folk.
Yeah.
But they've got to do something to reach young people.
Yeah.
And
can they at this point, or is the ship sailed on this?
Well, there's a few things I see. So I've got 4 kids aged 16, 18, 20, and 22. Mm-hmm. So they're this Gen Z category that's just kind of just entering into adulthood, high school, college age. And what I'm seeing amongst my kids and their friends is there is a backlash growing, partly to ads and partly to apps that they find addicting. So if you hear, like, they talk about brain rot a lot, and there's even lie down and brain rot or something like that. Like, brain rot is a big thing where they recognize that they're in their rooms just scrolling, wasting 3 hours a day. And then they go, wait a second, who's causing this? It's the technology platforms that are designing this experience to make me addicted. They are giving me brain rot. Yeah. And all of my kids have tried, like my son wanted to get an Android device so he could hack the YouTube app so he could not see any shorts, because YouTube shorts he finds so addicting. Yeah. So now what's interesting about this moment is I feel there's this kind of growing, and then they're also increasingly kind of like anti-technology, but also anti-big corporation. Yep. So the advent of AI, their economic prospects right now, the fact that there's all this brain rot content and apps that have taken advantage of them their whole childhoods. There's this growing backlash. Feels to me a lot like the growing resentment we had in that cut the cord movement back in the early 2000s, which created all of these enthusiasts that were like, I've got to find an alternative to paying these high cable bills and to watching all these advertisements. So who knows where it's going to go? But one possible future is that young people are going to be looking for mindful alternatives. And I think this is going to be big for audio podcasting. And it could potentially be big for apps like Apple that don't really need ads to survive, right? So there is an advertising piece in this new video thing, but I think there's going to be something about this mindful thing where kids are going to be like, what apps can I open? Like, where can I get my favorite creators without being tempted to watch YouTube Shorts for 3 hours? What apps can I open where I won't be tempted to watch Instagram Reels for 3 hours or TikTok for 3 hours? This short form content thing is like, kids are starting to rebel against it. Yeah. And so if Apple can position itself and say, hey, there's a mindful app already on your phone where you can open it up. Our business model isn't based on making you addicted. It's just based on selling you an iPhone or selling your parents an iPhone and then passing the iPhone along to you. That's our business model. And so there could be, who knows, this might not happen, but there could be an opportunity there for Apple as well. And, like, I'm even thinking like an advertising campaign where they put up billboards everywhere and they're specifically focused at kids going, hey, why don't you put your AirPods in, which we sell to you, put your phone in your pocket, which we sell to you, and go out for a walk and listen to a podcast. Like that is such a healthier version, alternative option than sitting in your room just brain rotting for 3 hours. So there's some potential here. Again, who knows what's going to happen? I think Apple's marketing team has not quite cracked Gen Z yet. Like, they're not, it's like Spotify, way more adept at reaching Gen Z. Apple's stuff it's almost like they need somebody who's kind of punk rock to come in there and shake things up, because it's a little too slick, a little too like,
Well, it's very, very the Apple culture is very, very slanted towards public radio.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about part of the reason why we wound up getting here is because the culture of the company had shifted a lot towards the ethos and the culture of public radio.
Mm-hmm.
And because public radio was a huge part of podcasting, and it continues to be. It's not like it's an irrelevant part of podcasting that Apple focused on, but a lot of the people they hired and stuff came out of public radio.
Mm-hmm.
And so that took us down this path of primarily being audio only with them as well, which
Mm-hmm.
depreciated the video. And I'm sure they weren't seeing as much video in their catalog anyway, but it's the self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it starts to decline and you start thinking, well, we should just take it out, take the ability to throttle between audio and video out of the interface because nobody's using it. There's no content in here, but they didn't face the reality is maybe they had a responsibility to promote it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they should have seen this though, because they would have seen.
Oh, I've been talking to them about it
known
for
that young
5
people.
years now.
Yeah, young people were using iPhones. They would have seen how popular Instagram became and how popular TikTok came and YouTube. Like all of the evidence was there. Human beings like video. Like that's true.
Yeah.
Human beings like TV. Yes, radio and audio only is its own unique experience. I think it is more mindful. I think there's lots of advantages to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact now that it's almost, it is a little bit like upsetting that there isn't more mindful alternatives for young people right now on their phones. Like all they have is these frankly terrible ad-driven companies that are like trying to make them addicted to their devices.
Yeah, it's very much a manipulation of people, and the younger generation is starting to see through it. And,
well,
and I've also seen this growth in interest online. If you were to go into Google or AI or any of these platforms and do a search for Zune, you'll be amazed how much interest there is in buying old Zunes.
Oh yeah, old Zunes, old iPods, old Walkmans. Walkmans are big. Vinyl records are big.
Yep.
It's still relatively small, but this is kind of the bubbling up of the punk rock resistance. This is like young kids starting to say, "No, I'm done with this. I want to listen to tapes now, or I don't want all of this garbage in my life anymore." So yeah, there's an opportunity there, and it's really apples for the taking because of all of the players, they're the only ones that really don't need the ad revenue.
They don't care about advertising because they've failed every time they've tried to get in the business. So
yeah, well, and it'll be
it's just not part of their culture. It's not part of the culture that they do, and they're very focused on privacy, which takes them down this path of not being involved in advertising. Yeah. So I have to give them credit. They did figure out a way to make money from advertising without actually being in the advertising business.
Yes, so, and we'll see how that works. Because I've heard that these ads won't be skippable.
I'm sure they won't be. Right.
I don't have any inside information on it. I don't know, but my sense is that they might not be skippable.
I don't know. That doesn't fit with the culture of Apple, though. I don't think Apple will push that on people like that because I think that could be a turnoff to their
I still haven't
customers.
seen an ad on any of these video podcasts in Apple. Maybe I just haven't hit one yet, or I don't know, but
I don't think it's been turned on. I think the big thing that everybody's trying to accomplish is getting the HLS infrastructure in place. I think that's the first step. And then once that happens, then the advertising will start to be integrated.
Yeah.
But, and how's that going to be controlled? What's the ethos around that? We don't really know either. So, what's the ad load that that everybody's going to want to push on that? It's a problem with the audio side right now. I think that the ad load is with some platforms. I would say not every platform has a problem, but are really, pushing towards bringing back the old commercial radio model, right? of
too many
having
ads.
a lot of ads, right?
Yeah. I mean, I find this already. I think this is a problem. One of these problems that fixes itself, though. Maybe because I've never been on the advertising side, I don't get all these folks that are like, we really need to figure out the ad load. And I'm like, but that problem just solves itself because consumers will just stop listening to ad shows that have too many ads. And
well, that's why we're seeing this growth in subscriptions too, and premium stuff.
Yeah.
Is it, I have the premium account with YouTube. I don't see ads anymore.
Yep.
So, Apple could do the same thing. So
Apple could do the same thing. And
they have lots of options right now. It's just, do they want to follow the market and do the right thing in the market for their users?
Mm-hmm.
And they historically have wanted to do the right thing for their users. So I give them credit for trying to do it this way, though I do, to kind of dovetail off what you were talking about earlier, I am still a little bit concerned about RSS. And as far as the bigger platform adoption of it, I think that the outside of the YouTube, Spotify, and Apple ecosystems, I think RSS is with us for eternity here.
Yes.
On those three big platforms, though, I have some questions on that, just because of my experience at Microsoft and how those big companies think. And they want to control the connections for this stuff, and especially if they want to get into more complicated relationships with their users.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easier way for them to do it.
Here's the thing, though. So it's definitely a risk.
It is.
There's always a threat.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's really going to happen, but here's why I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
So first, let's start with Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts, every single podcast in Apple Podcasts, unless it's a premium podcast, has to have an RSS feed. You have to. And so.
Okay, well, that raises some other questions I want to talk to you about too, but yeah, go ahead.
Spotify was the most vocal in terms of wanting to kill RSS.
Michael
Magnano writing that essay.
Yeah, I talked to Michael back in that time frame. I talked to Michael in New York on a trip back there, and it's like, he came out of the music industry. I don't know if you knew that or not. So
yeah. So so Spotify wanted to lock it down. Of course, what platform doesn't want to own it all? Like, of course they wanted to lock it down. Right. But Spotify lost that battle. We have pass-through. They wanted the content. Spotify users wanted the content.
Well, that's because all of us stood up to them and said, you weren't getting our content unless it was passed through.
That's right. And consumers, right? So consumers say, well, I want this podcast. I mean, even like, it's well known that who's the former CEO of Spotify?
Daniel Ek.
Daniel Ek. It's well known that Daniel Ek is a fan of a show that's on Transistor called Acquired. He loves the show. He's been on the show. He loves it.
Yeah.
Acquired loves having an RSS feed. They are independent creators. They want their feed in Apple Podcasts. They want their feed anywhere where people can get their podcasts.
Yep.
So, but Daniel Ek is also a user of Spotify. So what does he want? He wants Spotify to be able to ingest RSS, right? And
he doesn't want to miss out on his show.
Don't want to miss out on the show. So in a way, not in a way, RSS won. They won. Spotify wanted to, there was a movement inside of Spotify that wanted to crush RSS. I think RSS won. And sure, they're doing their own thing with exclusive shows, but even their exclusive shows now, they started off as exclusive on Spotify. What's happened?
They bailed on it.
They bailed on it. Now they're all RSS driven. They got Megaphone inside of Spotify. Anchor, Spotify for Creators, is probably the single biggest creator of new RSS feeds in the world. So RSS won that battle. So then we have YouTube. Now, first of all, I know there's lots of people in YouTube that are old tech guys, right? They're like people like you and I that were nerds. They were on BBSs in the early days. They were on RSS. They were building stuff on the web with PHP. These are nerds that are at YouTube. They love RSS philosophically. They are ingesting lots of RSS feeds right now. I wish that they would do it differently. Like, I wish YouTube Music would just ingest RSS feeds the proper way instead of making them videos on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's still a ton, millions of RSS feeds being ingested by YouTube Music every single day.
Yep.
So RSS, so it's not the what they're missing is you can't replace an audio file and have it update. You can't replace your show notes and have it update. Although you can, if you add an RSS feed manually in YouTube Music, it will just pull from the RSS feed like anything else.
Oh, and refresh it in the interface?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So RSS is like the cockroach that won't die. It's still here. And in so many ways, it's winning. I can't think of like, and it feels very similar to SMTP and email, just that so many companies have tried to kill email. Facebook famously had, you could get a @facebook.com email address and then receive all your messages in Messenger, and it was going to be, we're doing away with email. We're going to crush email. Didn't work. Some of these old
Protocols,
open source standards
Yep.
are so resilient. And in podcasting's case, because of the history, there's really, it's like a Mexican standoff between Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and holding the tension between all of them is RSS. It's like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, that's the truth.
There's no other example of it, of this type of situation at any of these companies.
That's right.
Open RSS is the exception to anything else that any of those companies are doing.
That's right.
So, I mean, none of them really support standards. I mean, Google doesn't support the same email standards that Microsoft does, and they're constantly conflicting with each other because of different protocols. The browsers are always different standards align. Hopefully they get pretty close to the standards, but these companies are competing with each other. And one of the ways that they compete is breaking compatibility with their competitors. And
but that hasn't really happened in email or the web. So there's like some difference in rendering HTML email between the different clients, but
it's not a huge difference.
Not a huge difference.
Then they're going to piss off their customers. Because
you got to email. There's just too much at stake. You can't mess up email.
You would think not.
I mean, people have tried. I know, but the web is remarkable. Like, web standards are remarkably good. Like, you load almost any website on any browser, it's going to load basically the same.
But there was an era a few years back when Microsoft, Netscape.
But what the difference was the Web Standards Group. So that was like Molly and all those people formed the Web Standards Group and petitioned those guys to adopt a universal standard. And now the Web Standards Working Group gets together all the time.
It's the OpenKit, right? It's the OpenKit.
So
standard, right?
So I am actually hopeful. One thing, this is why I disagreed with Michael's essay.
Oh, I did too.
And
I gave him a hard time about it.
I mean, you only have to look at the web. There is so much innovation still happening in the web. It's like open source and open protocols are driving an incredible amount of innovation. Plus, I think there's something about this argument that also diminishes the impact of old standards that are reliable, that keep delivering value. So if you had to say, like, HTTP, which is basically the foundation of all of web traffic right now, an HTTP request, how much value in dollars has that delivered since it was created?
Yeah.
It's in the trillions of dollars. Yeah. How much value did it create in 2025? Trillions? How much value is it going to create in 2026? Trillions? This old, crusty protocol built like a long time, like decades ago, still delivering value. I mean, if you're a capitalist, you should love this stuff. It's like these are free standards that you didn't have to develop inside of your own, like Oracle or IBM or anything. Free open standards that anybody can use. They're universal. They load in every browser.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that's why I'm hopeful about the open standard is, again, so what's anybody going to do? If YouTube wants the content, like if their users are demanding the content and they want to grow the number of people who are listening to podcasts on YouTube Music, you got to support RSS. That's how it is. If you want to, if Spotify wants the content and people want to listen to their favorite audio shows inside of Spotify, what are you going to do? You got to support RSS. So I don't see it going away unless this would be the big risk. And it's the demographic risk that you've identified before. If Gen Z prefers video content more than, let's say, millennials and Gen X and etc., if they prefer video content more and they just end up going to a centralized platform most of the time, that will be a threat for. So if we fast forward 20 years when my kids are in their 40s and they've built their consumption habits around YouTube, or they've built their consumption habits around watching video on Spotify, there is a danger to RSS there. Yeah. That's where we should maybe be worried. But again,
video could be on the path of using video as a Trojan horse here to open up the market in a different direction that they would like it to move towards. And, the question I keep coming back to is, Spotify is actually a interesting question right now about how they're going to respond to what Apple has done and how they're going to respond to the competitive pressure that they feel from YouTube, right? So how do they bring these two, behemoths to be able to respond in a way that will keep them relevant? Because right now their video strategy is, I think it's struggling right now.
Yeah, it's struggling. So here's another reason I'm hopeful about RSS though. So let's just fast forward. Let's say 5 years, this whole Apple HLS thing takes off. It's reasonably successful. We have more creators than ever self-hosting their video, paying for the bandwidth, paying for the hosting. And they've got their own, they're paying different Transistor or whoever for video hosting. So now we've got more HLS video streams than ever. And Spotify's still struggling to get more video content. They want more people in the app. They want more people paying for premium. They want all those things. What are they going to do? What's one way they could get way more video content overnight? Well, start to consume HLS video from RSS feeds. From the
alternative enclosure, right?
That's right.
Sure.
And
that's a low-hanging fruit for them to tap into it in an easier way. Yeah,
that's right. And there's even a way of getting, this could also, even YouTube, they're big, but YouTube wants creator content. They want content. They want as much as they can get. And they can consume an HLS video stream. I've even thought about
that's the protocol that they use to deliver the content on their platform right now.
Yeah. So I've even thought about I think it's still in YouTube's case makes sense for them to host it or whatever, but it might be that they are also just grabbing it from the creator's RSS feed. That's just another path for them to get video on YouTube. For the open hosting market, the podcast hosting market, and also the independent apps, I think have a big opportunity here too. But for the hosting providers, the creators want to upload once and distribute everywhere. I want to upload my video podcast episode to Transistor and have it automatically distributed everywhere. And then I want all of those analytics aggregated back in one dashboard. That's what I want, right?
Yeah. Right.
And I can. The bedrock of all that is still going to be RSS. That's where you're going to get the show notes. That's where you're going to, a lot of these platforms, including Spotify and Apple, are using the RSS feed as the foundation, right? So you have to, if you want to add video to an episode in Spotify right now, you have to have an RSS feed with all of your episode stuff. And then you come and you replace that episode's media file with a video file on Spotify, right? But all the metadata still coming from the RSS feed, title, description, everything else. It's still the foundation. So
but what's the odds between them choosing to take the HLS via API? How they're getting video files right now is via API connection.
Yeah, I think they're open to it. I mean, in some ways it might not even matter. Like I get the worry about that, these folks are going to be able to use it as a way of hedging off RSS or the competition or whatever. But the problem is all of these platforms want creators. And creators
I hate to, kind of keep questioning this because one of the reasons, and we haven't talked about it yet, is the conflict that this video strategy is presenting to the audio side, where there's a potential here. And I haven't learned anything other than what my supposition is here, is that there's potentially going to be 2 different audio versions available to the consumer.
Yes. So to do video the way that consumers seem to want it, which is being able to switch fluidly between the audio and video version.
Right. So you start listening in the car on the way home from work, and then you get home and you can switch it to the video experience and maybe throw it up on your big screen TV via AirPlay or something like that.
That's right.
I can see that scenario, or also Apple TV.
That's right. So to accomplish that, so what some folks have been doing is they create an audio only experience for the audio listeners, and then their video, they have a totally different edit and they throw that up on YouTube. Yeah, that is going to go away for sure. Because to accomplish this switching paradigm that YouTube already has on YouTube Music, that Spotify already has on Spotify, and that Apple has now released, and even what we were presenting as a part of the Podcast Standards Project, and then Fountain and True Fans adopted, is this idea you can switch fluidly between the video version and the audio version. Right now, Fountain and True Fans switches between the alternate enclosure tag and the audio enclosure. But we've already seen problems with it because now consumers are like, how come it doesn't switch to the part of the podcast that I was at? The only way to get over that problem is we have to give up a little something, and that is to have this separate audio video experience. And I know some creators don't like that. They don't, because they want to create a separate, more deeper edit on the audio side. Yeah. So there's going to be a little bit of a painful transition, right? Like, for example, the show you see on Apple Podcasts via HLS video will be different than the show you get on Pocket Casts via the traditional audio enclosure if they're uploading a different version. I think that, again, because consumer demand will kind of drive a lot of this, and the UI paradigm has already been, the user interface paradigm has already been chosen, which is we have a switching paradigm where you switch between the video and audio version. There's no other path forward except to you. It makes sense to just have the audio from the video becomes the podcast. Now, I think people are worried about this. Like, I edit my podcast a certain way, and you know what? Creators will learn how to do this creatively. Even I noticed, they're going to have to, at the end of the day, it's really making your video audio friendly is what it really comes down to. That's right. And also hosts and creators are going to also adapt. So for example, when I threw my screen I shared my screen with you, you had the inclination to say, oh, just for the listener, What he's showing up here is this, this, and this, and this. So you've been doing this video show for a long time. You know that audio listeners can't see what I have on screen. You got to describe it.
Yeah.
So in the same way that you adapted, I think podcast editors are going to adapt, producers are going to adapt, and there's going to be this whole new opportunity to create more fluid media. So right now, the audio editors and engineers are like, oh, we're going to miss out on so much. We could do all these cuts and that's going to look weird on video. They will become skilled at delivering a more fluid experience, and it's actually going to be fun. It will be fun because you're going to have opportunities to prompt the user every once in a while with a visual. So you remember those old children's books where you would listen to it on tape, but it would like give you a little sound to turn the page, like boom, and then you would turn the page. There's all of these things that editors are going to be able to do to say to the listener, hey, you might, if you're able to, if you're just walking the dog, you might want to just switch to the video version and see what we have going on screen right now.
You can suggest it to them in the middle of the consumption, right?
And think about like true crime podcasts, think about fantasy podcasts and storytelling and these like narrative that have been in the audio only realm. There's a world where, I mean, some people are just going to be generating, like AI animated backgrounds that are doing stuff. And then at certain parts of the story, they coalesce with something on screen. And it's like an Easter egg for the real fans that want to check it out. That people are going to start to recognize, for example, a lot of video podcasts are consumed in the background. So people aren't watching the whole time. They just have it up on screen. A lot of remote workers I've noticed
they're multitasking with their tablets and all sorts of stuff, right?
They got something on screen and every once in a while they'll look over. Well, pretty soon the adept creator and editor is going to think up new and creative ways to engage folks who are in more fluid consumers. They're consuming the audio, but then they go to the video, and then somebody with the video on in the background is already doing this. So you're going to have opportunities to just like meet people where they're at.
So you really, what we're creating here and is a kind of like a split market of podcasting, right? A lot of people are used to this being an audio only market, right? And now we're thrusting them into a alternative experience, which would be video first experience, right? And these audio first creators are still going to have a pathway. They're still going to be in the catalog. They can produce, but they're going to be disincentivized to create video versions of a heavily produced audio experience, right? So it may be not possible for them to get involved into video, right? So we're creating two different pathways into these catalogs as we look to the future. And I think as long as we're straightforward with this and we're telling people, what's going to be expected. And I think if you're a video creator, you have to do more thinking about creating your production so it's friendly on the audio only side, right? And that's going to create, a little bit of a production. If I think about even this show, I could probably do it as easily just not make any changes to what I do with this show, because I'm not playing a huge introduction. I'm only playing 15 seconds of music. That's all somebody's going to hear is 15 seconds of music at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's okay, and I can do a fairly good edit on the video that is good too. So I agree with you. I think that this is a valid pathway, but I'm not sure that the industry fully understands this distinction yet.
In some ways, the industry, I care less and less about what the industry cares about.
Well, that's fair. Right. But it's important for all of them to understand.
It's up to them if they want to understand or not. This is why I think like the only thing I pay attention to is the consumer and the creator. Those two drive everything. So it's not
agreed.
some person who has an opinion in a podcast industry, some, 60-year-old man that's been around forever and has, they grew up through radio and now they've got opinions. I don't care at all about what they say. What I care about
it's not just 60-year-olds that have this opinion. It's young people too. Right?
I'm in some ways creating a cartoon, but it doesn't matter. And I can get caught up in this too. Like, what does the industry care about?
Yeah.
Like, what do we got? It doesn't matter. That's how you lose sight of what's important. What matters is consumers. And the reason I'm not like, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be so hard, like video and audio, and some people will only be listening. And is a creator going to know what to do? I watch my son cooking eggs, 16 years old. He's watching this YouTube creator called Moist Critical, right? And Moist Critical is showing things on screen and doing all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's a time where after a while, my son will just put his iPhone in his pocket and keep listening. So he's already exhibiting this kind of fluid behavior. He's watching somebody, and then Moist Critical might be showing something on screen that he's not seeing. No. He's just listening to it and enjoying it. It's fine. It works. And, there a lot of these YouTube creators, like if we could actually do studies that show like eye tracking where how much time are people actually watching versus just listening passively, I think folks would be surprised. This has already been sorted out.
All these platforms have all that user data, and they see what users are doing with their platform. Spotify, Apple, Apple to some degree is probably taking a gamble here because I don't think they've had a lot of data about video consumption on their platform, but I do think that Spotify is seeing this, and this kind of behavior, this fluid consumption behavior that you're talking about is pushing the industry in a different direction than what a lot of people expect, because we've been so focused on these complicated, in-depth audio experiences. And I think those people feel threatened by this, and they shouldn't, because if they're going to produce a production like that, they just need to keep doing what they're doing.
Well, they need to keep doing what they're doing, or they need to adapt. That's the other thing is that
some productions probably aren't going to be able to adapt effectively, but that's okay.
That's right. That's how it's always been. This is the thing is like all of this like hand wringing in the industry about, we're losing something special and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do real consumers want, and what do creators want to make? Well, most creators want to make something that means something to an audience,
right?
Whether that's 10 people or 100 people or 500 people or 100,000 people. That's
so
what they
if you're
care about.
A video creator, you have to think like that. I mean, you have to think like the fact that your audience is going to be watching sometimes and listening other times.
Yeah.
And that's the model. It's different than the audio producers. The audio producers don't have to worry about that.
That's right. But I think creators are already figuring this out. If they're smart, they know. Like it didn't... like one of the most effective things I used to do on my shows is I would give little shout outs to people doing the dishes. Like, hey folks, I know some of you out there are like doing the dishes right now. I just want to say, I know you're doing them.
Walking their dog, or
I see you doing them.
Yeah.
And I used to get so much feedback from people that were like, man, like you really saw me. Like you knew I was washing the dishes.
How'd you know I was doing that?
And I think YouTube creators, the ones that are good, know that a lot of people are watching on the background. And so, they'll say, hey, if you're not watching the screen right now, look over here. I'm about to show you something cool. Creators will adapt. It's up to the creator to know their audience, right? That's it. And if the market for shows like, Welcome to Night Vale, if that market, maybe people don't want those shows as much anymore, that's fine. That's, or maybe there'll be a whole new audience that wants a mix of these kind of audio immersive dramas, but you could still produce something on video that just adds a little something. It doesn't have to be the main experience. It can be a supportive experience to these immersive, and these already exist on YouTube. There are so many YouTube videos where there's not much going on screen.
Yeah.
Right. And people are listening, consuming, and also just sometimes like to have it on in the background. So there's going to be lots of opportunities here. And it's not up to the industry. The industry decides nothing. It's the consumer. It's the creator. And that's
been a hard lesson to get through. And Todd Cochran and I talked about this a lot too, is that I was trying to reflect what consumers, I'm more like you than Todd was. Todd was like, everything is about the industry, about the creators. He's very focused on the creators and how they think and how they process stuff. And I'm like going to the show every week going, but Todd, that's not how the rest of the world thinks about this stuff. So, so this tension, I think we just need to get through it. And I think we've reached a point of saturation or penetration, I guess, of adoption of this medium, whatever the consumption platform is that people think. And this gets back to the definition of podcasts. And I've been through so many cycles of people saying podcasts are dead, and it's, let's call it netcasts or let's call it something else. And this is happening in the industry right now, is that people don't want there to be an association with video, with podcasting. And it's that they're looking for a new name and all stuff. I've seen this happen like 10 times in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is Leo Laporte was always trying to say netcast, right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing, we can't really affect consumer behavior that much. I think where we should be thankful is that podcast as a cultural atomic unit means something to the wider culture. So just the fact
it is the media now, Justin. I mean, there's nothing bigger than podcasting, but the bigger thing that's shifted now is that it's so much beyond podcasting now, right? It's online media. The consumer is seeing all this stuff as podcasts, right?
Yes.
The industry sees it as just audio, right? But everybody else, and this gets back to exactly what you're saying, is that the rest of the world sees all this content, video, audio, on all these platforms as a form of a podcast. And that's where we're dividing as an industry. We're not seeing what's going on right in front of us. So
and what I'm way more interested in is go out and survey thousands of consumers and just ask them to describe what a podcast is to them, because that's what's important.
I think we know the answer to that already. It's been done. So, and it's a remarkable answer, and a lot of people don't like the answer.
Yeah, it could be, it's like, oh, for me, it's two people talking in long form about a topic I care about. That might be what it means for some folks. Other people, a clip or a reel or a TikTok with two people talking on microphones looks and feels like a podcast.
Well, it could have come from a podcast. See, that's the thing, is that in its purest form, it's not a podcast. But
in some ways, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what we think. Once something becomes a cultural phenomenon, we kind of got to let it go.
Yeah, we do. Right.
And it's not up to us anymore. I was thinking about soap operas. Soap operas used to be a comedy, short form comedy, 15-minute radio sketch. That used to be what a soap opera was.
Well, that's how it started, right? Yeah.
And then the definition evolved. It became long form, and then it became more kind of romantic and like these crazy storylines.
Right.
And then it eventually came to television, and then it evolved again. Yep. So that's a soap opera. And now the hottest soap operas on the planet are these short form soap operas coming out of Asia. I don't know if you've seen these, but
the vertical
video, and short episodes, but they're addictive. And people are paying and watching these like crazy. Now that's a soap opera, right? Doesn't look like the 1 hour Days of Our Lives episodes anymore. It's out of our hands. We don't get to decide these things.
a startup. This is probably like 5 or 6 years ago that popped up out of Hollywood that was trying to do that same exact thing where they were serializing vertical videos into, like 5-minute episodes, that kind of thing. And the whole thing crashed and burned. It didn't
work.
Right. It didn't work, but it probably was too early is what the problem was.
Too early or just not the right thing. I mean, again, this is why that's such a great example of consumer demand and a consumer reaction to something is hard to know in advance, but the industries that die and the companies that die and the products that die are the ones that don't recognize that it's the consumer.
Right. Well, before we, this has been a great episode, Justin. I think we've really talked to death this issue about HLS and what's happening with the video side of stuff. But the other topic that I kind of wanted to cover to some degree was synthetic voices and the impact of AI and the effort in more the tech sector of sorts. There's increasing numbers of startups that I've been talking to over the last 3 or 4 months that are pushing into using AI increasingly around podcasting. And I'm sure you're talking to them too. I'm sure they're reaching out to you and you're thinking about this stuff too. And just wanted to get your thoughts on where it is right now, because what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is it is a little shocking. So it's not, there's a lot of people that don't like it. There's a lot of people that don't like the fact that AI is coming in this way, AI-rated content, right? But what I'm seeing when I'm talking to these people that are building these platforms is that they are getting users, they are getting listeners, they are getting viewers, and the quality is getting better and better. Like I wanted to play. This is a video that was done by Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And he did a series. This was like I said, a year ago. So this isn't even the latest tech that's out there right now around human cloning. But I wanted to play something here for people to see. I'm trying to remember which one. Okay, yeah. So there's 2 examples. Let me pull it up here, and I can share the screen on this one. Reid Hoffman decided that he was going to do a podcast that was basically, did you see any of these, Justin?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay. And I don't know why I'm having a hard time here. Let's see here. It's not, okay, here we go. Okay, you can see it on the screen now. Okay.
Why would I want to be interviewed by a digital version of myself? Well, great question. Reid AI, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm an AI-generated version of Reid Hoffman, his digital twin. My thinking and everything I am saying comes from a custom GPT that is based on 20 years of Reid talking and making content. So I've read all his books, watched his speeches, and listened to his podcasts. I think it gives me a pretty good sense of how you approach the world, Reid.
So first, I'm going to challenge Reid AI with some questions to see what it can do and how good its content is in mirroring what I might say.
Then the tables will turn and I will challenge you with some questions about AI and tech.
Of course, there's a second question, whether or not I'll answer.
Well, okay, challenge accepted.
Let's get started. Let's take a real piece of work from me, blitzscaling. I wrote a 336-page book. And how do you explain it in one sentence? To a smart person, to a 5-year-old, well, for the Star Trek fans, in Klingon, and as Jerry would explain it in Seinfeld.
Okay, condensing your entire strategy from a 336-page book into one sentence, and starting with the explanation for the smartest person in the world.
So this is really interesting because this was tech from a year ago. And I know how Reid did this because I've been talking to content producers that are doing this type of thing, and they are doing it in two separate batches. Like, so you'll have a recording with Reed that's on the right, which was recorded at a different time. You can tell by the different hairstyles, because when they modeled Reed on the left side of the screen, he had a different outfit. He had a different hair kind of situation going on. He was a little bit more clean shaven, all this kind of stuff. So you see some differences between the two of them, but the quality of the video itself and the spoken language was produced separately, right? So it wasn't like this was done live, right?
Yeah.
But that's where this tech is starting to get to the point where is that you would be able to do this live. The problem with it right now is that there's some latency in your conversation with the AI. There's platforms out there that will enable you to do this whole process and have it be real time. And then the other one that I wanted to show was this other platform that's an AI platform, and you may have seen this too. So I wanted to play that really quick here too. Let's see here. Share this one, and then we can really dive in.
Everything. Hey, if we haven't met, I'm the digital avatar of Julia McCoy. Julia reads every comment, so share your thoughts below. What I'm about to share isn't science fiction. It already happened. The question is, what comes next? Let's get into it. Let me explain the problem that tortured scientists for 50 years. Your body is made of proteins. They're the workers that do everything: fight diseases, digest food, carry oxygen, build muscle. There are over.
So there's probably no reason to keep playing it, but it's Julia is an avatar that was created by the real human Julia McCoy, right? And she will occasionally come on her channel as herself, right? She'll create some content on the platform, but most of the content that she produced, she AI generates, and all this stuff is pre-recorded. It's not live. And but what's interesting about this, I waved my hand again, and my AI camera zoomed in on me. So here, hang on here. Let me turn that off.
This is a perfect example of how AI is going to affect our content right here.
Well, you can, right? Yeah. It's all about hand gestures, so you don't want to make hand gestures to it. Also, it will change. But anyway, that's a separate topic. But it's this whole thing between these hybrid human AI clones of ourselves is increasingly being done out there. And what I'm raising the question is this a way for us to extend our content creation? Because these models are actually getting so good. If you watch Julia's video, her avatar video, and then you watch her real human videos, you can contrast that. And it can be, her avatar clone is actually, I think, a little bit more refined, a little bit more, I don't know, well lit and looks a little younger and all this kind of stuff. So you have a little bit of a disconnection. So when you go from watching her as an avatar to watching her real life video, it's almost a little jarring, right? That's to be fair about it. But in a lot of ways, she's actually better as a presenter in her AI avatar and how she communicates, how she shares information. I think her team, Julia's team, has done a terrific job with her avatar and making really good edits and making the transitions really good. And the whole avatar creation part of this, they've got nailed down, right? And this is just one example, and I'm seeing this across a lot of YouTube right now.
I think this stuff is going to be, again, what's going to matter is what is the finished product, and what does it evoke with an audience? So in both of those examples, they're both very well edited, very well produced. There's an arc. Somebody is crafting that whole experience. And by somebody, it's a human right now. But even that doesn't matter. Eventually, maybe AIs will be able to edit and produce as well. But what matters is, do audiences like it? Do audiences show up? Do audiences keep watching? Do audiences keep watching even after the, do they watch long term even after the trend has moved on, right? And I think AI is going to be an incredible tool for creators.
Mhm.
I think it's going to make indie creation a lot more accessible, because now, if you struggled with making motion graphics before, well, that's going to be possible now. It's going to be a lot more accessible. If you, want to do some creative things that are kind of out of the box, in the same way that when computer 3D graphics came out, there were some creative artists that were like, I'm going to use this as my canvas. And the traditional artists were like, you can't do that. That's not real art. You're getting the computer to generate it for you. And turns out that there's a lot of great art that's been created with computers.
Yeah.
That the thing that has existed up until now, it could change, but I don't see it changing yet, is that the creative mind behind these productions, who's editing, who's producing, who's creating, like I said, the arc of an episode or the arc of a piece of media, that's still very human. And you can see it in both of those clips. The edits, the decisions that they're making, they're probably combining a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make all of that happen and be somewhat compelling.
She's getting hundreds of thousands of views in each of her episodes, and she's driving millions of dollars in revenue for herself.
Yeah. So but it's going to be the same as it's always been, is how do you make an audience care? How do you make an audience show up?
Yeah.
And how do you, there's a lot of bad 3D animation back in the day, and some people watched it because of, it was on TV and whatever. What endured was Pixar, right? That they endured, and they endured because they have some of the best storytellers and creators on the planet behind that technology, behind using that technology.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think podcast creators are going to be able to do that. I will say, I'm seeing the opposite trend, which is, think about this. We've got these AI companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and all these things. These are billion-dollar, trillion-dollar valuations getting close to, right? Like, these are very expensive companies. These CEOs can do anything. They're at the forefront of AI technology. What are they doing? They're showing up on podcasts as themselves and all the time. Yeah. Every one of those CEOs is on, it seems like they're on a podcast every week.
Yeah.
I'm actually really bullish on just traditional podcasting, because even with all of this AI, there's this enormous appetite, both from thought leaders and CEOs or whatever, and audiences, to consume the real stuff. It almost seems like now people want more than ever the real human stuff. There's a real appetite for less slop and more genuine, authentic human connection. So I think some people will enjoy some of this AI-generated content. I think there will be a lot of bad AI-generated content. We're seeing a lot of it. People are trying to submit it to Transistor. Nobody's listening. Like, the vast majority of these AI-generated shows right now are not getting listeners because the humans behind it aren't actually crafting that experience. Right. The ones that are getting engagement are putting in a ton of human effort to make it something that audiences want. And I just don't see that changing, at least not for a while. I haven't seen anything. We see this in marketing all the time too. So, like, you can get an AI to write code for you, because code is like a knowable thing. There's a corpus of data out there. You can look at patterns. You can look at best practices, although a lot of the code being written by AI is also not great. But when it comes to marketing, if an LLM represents the average of everything that's out there, right? What stands out in marketing isn't average. What stands out in marketing is what is above the noise. How do you stand above the fray?
Yeah, right.
And the same is true for anything you're creating. And so if AI means now that, and this is happening, there are thousands of new AI generated podcasts being created every day. And some of them are posting 5-6 episodes a day that nobody's listening to or watching. There's just going to be more noise, right? And increasingly, humans are going to be trying to, with their limited attention spans, tune in to what matters, tune in to what moves them in some sort of way. And so, if anything, I think the bar is going to get higher. There's more content than ever. Now we have all of this mass-produced AI-generated content coming online, and consumers don't want mass-produced slop. They don't want like stuff that's just average. If you have the choice between consuming something that's average or something that's great, you're going to choose what's great. And so, yeah, you can use computer-generated CGI graphics and make a movie like Avatar, which lots of people liked, or you can not do that and make a movie with very little CGI that a lot of people like. The point is, what do people like?
Yeah, Justin, I'm just not 100% in agreement with you entirely on this, because the path of technology is the worst that we're going to see, and so increasingly there's a lot of evidence that audiences are being pulled to this type of content,
but not on like right now.
Yeah, they are.
What in the top 100 podcasts, are there any that are AI generated?
But that's not a fair comparison.
Top 500.
Top I understand. I understand, Jason, to some degree.
Top 500 TV shows.
I understand that there's a what's politically correct to say about what's happening with AI.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a factor of many in the industry don't want this to happen and don't want this to progress because it threatens whatever. It threatens whatever that is existing in the industry.
Oh, I agree with you on that. Right. I just think ultimately nothing has changed, at least until the only thing that might change it.
Not yet.
The only thing that might change it that I can see that's even within the realm of possibility is artificial intelligences start making content for other artificial intelligences. That is possible. Well, if there are agents that, that right now there are AI agents that have credit cards that are they are consumers on behalf of their, human partners. So there is a possibility that, an AI is out there and its directive is to find the best industry content on urban development, and then it hits it goes out and finds content, and there's one creator it loves, which just happens to be an AI creator. I could see that being true, but as long as like the audience for video audio content is human, then you have to appeal to the humans somehow. And so, yeah, if you can make an AI, if you can make a show with AI and get lots of people that are into it, then certainly I can imagine in adult entertainment, this is going to be a thing. I think it's plausible to me that a lot of consumers would show up for AI generated adult entertainment. And maybe this will also be true for these AI influencers and things like that. But the fundamentals haven't changed. You've got to make things that people care about. And
I'm 100% in agreement with you on that. I think that that's what is being worked on right now, is making this as human-like as possible, as relevant as possible, and interesting as possible. And there's increasing examples. I've talked to some AI researchers working in digital media out of Silicon Valley and have had some correspondence. And your first reaction just a couple seconds ago was actually more spot on than you realize. Is that that really at the end of the day, AI content is going to be first created by AI. So that's its first consumer is AI, and then it's going to move to humans, right? And that's already happening. Just look at YouTube. YouTube is algorithmically controlled, right? It analyzes your content and it decides who it's going to push it out to, right? And so AI is already evaluating human content right now and deciding whether or not it has audience or not.
Yeah.
So there's two layers of this, creating content that just pushes directly to humans. And then there's increasingly what's going to happen is more and more podcasting content, or what we perceive as podcasting content, is going to get pushed through algorithms, just like what we've seen with Facebook, just like what we've seen with increasingly what's happening on X or on LinkedIn or whatever. We're all being funneled information that the AI thinks we want, right? And that's the backdrop to what's happening with this AI content. And actually, AIs don't even use English or human language to communicate to each other. So it may be that they don't even use the same form of content that we use to go through that process.
That's right.
Of evaluating. So there's layers to this that really hasn't been understood by the content creation community quite yet about what this AI is coming to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful for us to have some sort of glimpse of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to in this particular sense, it's very difficult to look into the future because, I mean, I'm dealing with this every day because on the tech side, especially in terms of agentic coding, the way the tech industry looked a week ago is already different than it looks today.
Yeah.
And certainly there was a massive shift that happened around the holidays, around Thanksgiving, Christmas time in 2025 that dramatically changed a lot of things in the industry. I'm still, as long as we're making content for humans, I think that creators will still be creator driven, human creator driven for a long time. There'll still be creators using AI the way that you demonstrated.
Yeah, all of the content's being created today, I agree with you, has a human kind of editor, kind of like orchestrator of sorts of these platforms, and they're coming up with having to use custom prompts, and they're having to adjust the prompts. They're having to make sure that the algorithms, or prompts are an algorithm really, will tell the AI to do things in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And adjust things on the video side as well as the audio side to make it be more reflective. And I also think it's a factor of training data too. You know, even from a creator, like I'm cloning myself and I'm learning about this process, and the more data it has about me, the better it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these AI platforms started with doing it, like even 11 Labs and the Notebook LM platform, whatever. They would take like 15 seconds of audio from you, and they would generate, your clone out of it. And it's just not. It just doesn't have the quality. It's really a cheap implementation. So when when this is done appropriately, it's done with hours and hours of your content. And so it's a different level.
And I mean, there are shows I've listened to where I'm like, oh wow, I wouldn't have known that was AI right away.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of it on YouTube already.
I will also say though, we have to be careful because there's a lot of fake claims being made right now as well. So you might think it's moving faster than it really is. I don't know if you saw that that viral fight between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It was all over media. Everyone was talking about it. And then it turns out it was fake. Basically,
Well, there's a lot of fakes out there, right? Because it can be used in that way. And people aren't. I'm not talking about creating that kind of content. I'm talking about actually trying to clone humans.
Well, but that was the fight. Was that the idea was that there was this was an AI generated movie scene with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and the claim being made was that it was completely AI generated.
It
but
probably
it was
was
actually not. It was.
Oh, it wasn't
No,
completely.
No. They used but I think they actually used actors to do it. Like they actually had actors, and then they
Really?
eventually, yes, yeah. So the
whole thing was a stunt, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah, so it goes both ways. It's like stuff that's being created that's using AI is getting bashed, and then it's people that are creating content that looks like it's AI that are getting bashed now, right?
Yeah.
But it's actual real. That's a sign that people can't really distinguish between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just saying in some cases it feels like it's moving fast, and it's there's certainly folks working on this that are very smart and doing real stuff, but there's also just a lot of stuff that's not there. There's also this big thing like that all these Claude bots, all these open claw machines were posting to each other on this social media platform, especially for these bots. But a lot of those posts ended up being not real. They were just humans pretending to be, Claude bots. So who knows what's real anymore?
Yeah, well, that's the bigger question at this point. Is that at some point these things are merging together so much around experiences that people aren't going to tell anymore. They're just going to assume everything is AI at some point.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
Because humans like to think negative more than they like to think positive, right? So there's a human inclination to be skeptical of anything that maybe looks a little off or a little fake. So yeah. And that's where the trust is really becoming such a big factor now. That's why
right.
I'm really focused on that part of the content creation side of things.
Yeah, and there will be a authentic human movement as well. There's going to be some sort of cryptographic or holographic thing that you show on screen and say, I am my authentic self right now. And some people will be looking, some people will filter their video podcasts and YouTube videos by authentic human. Like, I just want to see authentic
That's the most fascinating aspect of this whole conversation, Justin, is that when we reach that point of not being able to tell.
Yes.
And once we reach that point, then that identification becomes very important. And I know that the IAB, the Interactive Advertising Bureau, I've spoke to them, and they are in the middle of rolling out. They haven't publicly announced it yet, but a public standard for AI identification. And this is increasingly being done really around the advertising industry, because the advertising industry is really pushing hard into AI generated ads. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually think dynamic AI generated ads actually kind of makes sense. Like you've got the host's voice, like that seems it's short enough that maybe
right.
Yeah.
I mean iHeart's already announced it for their platforms. So it's already happening at Spreaker.
Yeah.
It's already happening, I'm sure, at probably Omni, at the very least at this point, and the iHeart platform.
Yeah. Although I've spoken with a lot of apps that are having an incredible amount of difficulty with all these AI driven shows. Like
trying to manage them and trying to identify them. And
it has the possibility. It's just so much volume. It takes down systems. It crashes things all the time. It's like, it's volume that they never, had to deal with before.
Right.
And, in the vast majority of cases, nobody is consuming the content. So it's just generated content for no reason. So there will be a backlash in that sense, because the the way that for all of these platforms, they're going to start going like, yeah, some of this AI generated content people like, but like 95% of it that's being submitted to us, nobody likes. And it's just chewing up resources, like an enormous amount of resources, and creating a lot of technical problems. Like,
so where's the resource, concern here? Because if they're not getting listened to very much, it's only like storage of those media files, right?
Indexing. So all of the big apps, even Spotify and Apple Podcasts, they have indexing shows. Like if you've ever published an episode to Apple Podcasts and go, how come it didn't show up right away? It's like, they're a big company. They got lots of money.
Right.
It's like indexing all of those episodes is actually an enormous task. It takes a lot of compute to do that. And when you have episodes and feeds being programmatically created, and now you have to index all of those, like you literally have to ping feeds all the time. And now you're getting 10, 20, 300 times more volume coming in. That's the problem. It's going to be an indexing problem. It's going to be a search problem. All of these things get put into databases, and you have to have a way of quickly searching them, which is actually a big technical hurdle to have fast, efficient search. So yeah, it's and even like on the Transistor side, maintaining a feed that is 5,000 episodes long and is publishing 100 new episodes a day. It can.
I don't think there's any that are doing that.
We're seeing podcasts that are publishing like multiple times per day, thousands of episodes in the feed. And in one feed, they're publishing thousands of episodes. Oh yeah.
Really?
I just took one off the system today. That was 5,000 episodes. Yeah.
5,000 episodes in one RSS feed.
Yeah. And it can slow down.
Well, it doesn't even make sense really, because the platforms, Apple doesn't support that.
That's right. Yeah. They're going to limit it to 2,000 or whatever. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, like, it's going to create resource challenges for people, and there will be pushback on that alone.
So so why wouldn't the hosting platforms just make sure that they're charging for hosting fees on that?
Well, in some cases, like a small team like Transistor, we just don't have the resources to.
Yeah, but don't they have to create an account?
They have to create an account. Yeah,
right.
But it's like, it's not worth it for a small team like us to want. I actually have no idea why some of my competitors are doing it. I don't know economically what's the advantage. I think that's that market's gonna fall through. Honestly, I don't think I don't think the vast majority of those shows are earning significant ad revenue, and they create significant engineering.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Obstacles. Yes,
right.
Like significant. It's going to be so difficult to manage that amount of volume. Even like an RSS feed that's 5,000 episodes, it can be like massive in terms of like what we have to serve to everyone pinging that RSS feed all day, right? Like 50 megabytes. And there's even we have caching limits as well, right? We can cache files that are up to a certain size, but if it gets too big.
So wouldn't you cap the amount of episodes that get published?
In our terms of use, we have we have that, but in our case, we just don't want. There are shows that use AI on Transistor, but we don't want people mass just with a fire hose shooting thousands of episodes into a feed that nobody's listening to. That benefits nobody. There's like it and creates, again, queuing problems and database problems, just like tons and tons of issues when you get to that kind of scale.
But if you're capping it, that wouldn't happen, right?
Yeah. So generally we want all of the episodes to be in the feed if we can. So our cap, I think, is, we have some sort of cap. It's probably based on whatever Apple will accept. And we can also restrict other things as well. but an account or a show that is just kind of mindlessly creating slop content that nobody's listening to and chewing up resources, it's not worth it for us. And it creates enough technical problems that we have terms of use that are any excessive use of our platform will just, you can't host with us. You do see these people moving around a lot as well. Like these people generating a lot of AI generated shows, they get kicked off one host and then they try to go to another. And most of the hosting platforms don't want it. And I think eventually,
but they all want paying customers, right? Paying
customers
shows and paying hosting.
Yeah, paying customers is fine.
Accounts,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. So. But the what's crazy, I mean, even the web traffic, the increase in web traffic that just a website is getting now from all of these LLMs fetching data.
I agree with. Oh yeah,
that alone, is costing independent websites a lot of money, and I see that the backlash will be, listen, like, yes, AI is a good tool. Yes, we can use it to create interesting things, but there's a limit. Like creating 1,000 slop episodes that nobody's listening to, we're just not going to have that. And also, maybe we're not going to accept traffic from every LLM AI bot in the world. Like maybe we'll restrict it to a few things, because it's going to take down the internet. Another example is, have you heard of Pulsia?
No, I haven't heard of Pulsia.
Okay. Pulsia.com, viral, sensational startup. It's the talk of Silicon Valley right now.
Oh, it is.
You can go and you can have an AI create an autonomous company for you. So you go on and basically it creates companies, and then you share part of the revenue with Pulsia.com. And everyone's talking about it. It's amazing. It's like he's gotten all this funding and attention and everything. Well,
is it a totally AI company from top to bottom?
Yeah.
There's no real humans involved in it? Okay.
But here's the net result as it stands right now.
Yeah.
When pushed, the founder says, well, the highest earning company out of literally tens of thousands of companies that have been started on this thing, the highest earning company is making $50 a month. So that's the first thing. And how many, actually, if you go to Pulsia.com/live, you'll see the kind of live feed of it. Where is it? Here we go. So how many companies? 6,000 active companies right now. And so he says the annual run rate is $6 million for this thing. There's some funny math here. He's extrapolating, like in a given month, some of these companies actually do earn money, and he's extrapolating out, how much money would this be if they continued to earn money over a year? The actual result of this thing is that I am getting dozens of spam emails from companies that run autonomously on Pulsia in my email every day. And the listener can go and do this in their own inbox. Just search for Pulsia, Polsia, and see how many spam emails you're getting from Pulsia.com. And what I'm doing now, it's just too much. At first, it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, look at these people that, they're trying to, and then I'm like, okay, that's enough. I got it. And so now I just have a filter that automatically deletes any email from Pulsia.
Right.
Well, that's an example of one person
right.
with bandwidth and limited bandwidth. And I'm saying I've had enough. Well, that's going to happen for every podcast app that has to maintain a directory, every hosting company that has to maintain.
So that's going to cause hosting fees to go up, do you think?
No, I think smart companies will just, why take the negative externality?
Okay, so you just block a lot of activity.
We're just gonna. I mean, Transistor,
kind of a cost savings move. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Transistor already. You have to you have to be on a paid subscription to use our hosting plan. So, if you want a free option, you go to Spotify for Creators or SoundCloud or whatever.
Right.
But even they are going to start restricting people who sign up because it's just going to be, the volume is going to be too much. And I'm guessing YouTube is look at the amount of human verification YouTube's put up lately. So if you want to start a new YouTube channel, you got to videotape your face and all this other stuff. Why? Well, because they're trying to slow down. They're trying to restrict the fire hose. It's just too much garbage content. So everybody.
I would agree. I think they still want humans creating it. It can include AI. It's just, it needs to be done in a responsible, authentic and as believable way with verifiable information in it, and not traipsing off into content areas that flags its community standards flags, right? Because the AI is analyzing everything from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And anything that's put up there. And so this whole AI thing is going to cause a lot of consternation with a lot of platforms that are trying to accommodate it. And it's, the battle's going to continue. I mean, it's going to,
I'm not that
you're going to
worried
have to
about
make some tough choices, I think, as you look to the future on this.
Yeah, I'm not worried that much about it because unless I'm not in the business of creating anything for, well, that's not true, actually. I'm not in the business of creating video or audio primarily for AIs right now. Right now, my primary audience is human. Now, I am doing some things to, I want Transistor to show up in ChatGPT results just as much as anybody else. So I'm doing some things to make that happen. But when I create content, and most of the creators I want to help are also creating content for humans. So personally, if a creator wants to use AI and people like it, the audience likes it, then I'm all for it. I think it's great. But I'm not that worried, like on an industry level, I'm not that worried about it. Like if you're passionate about reaching humans with a story or with a message, or you want them to feel something, or you want to think about something, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to do that. And whether or not an AI will be able to do that autonomously, I haven't seen yet, but that's possible. But I think there's going to be a market for human generated content for a long time.
Yeah, I think there's going to be two distinctions. And I do think, like we talked about earlier, it's the identification is going to become important, especially as the AI gets better, and it will get better. It's going to get more believable. It's going to get more real. It's going to be built on better training models. That's the progression of this stuff. But I'm agreeing with you, I think, on the principle that, if a platform is generating, 3,000 episodes, into one RSS feed, I think that's probably that throttle needs to be adjusted, right?
Yeah.
Because no human is going to be able to ingest that kind of volume and that kind of frequency. So, and even AI, are you really creating quality, or are you just creating just a bunch of, 5-minute, 10-minute episodes or whatever that have really no, intrinsic value, right? And I think that's the big thing, is it's the creating the content that, like you said, and I agree with it, that it needs to be content that is of value, right? And it needs to drive a value. It needs to have a reason for existing. And
yes.
And I think it could be a benefit to the hosting platforms, because they're picking up new accounts, but it needs to be done in a way. And unfortunately, you're feeling like you have to block it or throttle it or do something because the creators are not being responsible.
That's right.
The people that are running these AI platforms are not being responsible with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's an early stage sign that will shake out, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I think it will, because there's going to be, again, audiences will only be consuming the best stuff.
Yeah, that's all I care about is if it's going to be AI content, I want to know that humans like it just as much as the content that I make. So
that's right. Yeah.
So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Justin, it was great. I know we went over 2 hours. I think this is one of the longer New Media episodes we've ever done. So, but there's a lot to cover and a lot of stuff to talk about. And I know we spent a lot of time on the HLS stuff and the video side.
Yeah.
The conflict in the industry. And I hope that it was helpful to some people out there that stayed with us this whole time.
Right. Well, I'm happy to come back anytime to chat about any of this.
All right, Justin, it was great to have you, and thank you so much for being here. And yeah, let's do this again. I think we have a lot of things that we can cover, kind of like what we had going on when Todd was around, right?
That's right.
So
yeah.
There's a lot of controversies and a lot of things going on in the medium that need to be talked about and surfaced and appreciated. So
yeah.
But thanks. And thank you for everybody who stuck with us here for the 2-hour episode. I'll get this episode up as an audio and video podcast. It's not HLS yet, but I am supporting in the audio feed that's in Apple Podcasts. I'm supporting Alternative Enclosures.
Nice.
So I have video inside of my audio feed and I have audio inside of my video feed. So
nice.
Yeah. So it's all there. It's all being done through Blueberry at this point, because
awesome.
they've been the one to support the MP4, which has been shocking to me. Just before we wrap up here, is Blueberry and Libsyn have not been announced as part of the HLS streaming platform, and those were 2 of the 3 original video supporting platforms for podcasting. So I think
Blueberry's working on it.
I'm sure they are, and I'm sure Libsyn is too. And there's a couple other ones out there that haven't announced, because I've talked to them, and they're working on it, chugging away. And I think everybody's going to support it. I think at this point, and Apple's pretty open to having everybody support it.
That's right. Yeah, even smaller hosting platforms I've seen have become partners, and yeah.
So this is going to launch in a big way when it finally comes out and we start getting the advertising stuff. It's going to be an interesting adjustment for Apple, and I'm hopefully going to be talking to their program manager here soon. And I would like to share some even forward-looking thoughts as we look to the future with this. And it really dovetails a lot back to what you were saying earlier in the episode around them, thinking about their demographic fit with the market.
Yes.
And trying to do something about that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe I'll come back in 3 months and we'll see what's developed.
Yeah, let's definitely plan on that. All right, Justin.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Bye.